Welcome to the Daily Devotional Podcast with author, pastor, and speaker Zach Maldonado, a podcast about helping you know and enjoy Christ each day.
In the last few episodes, we've been looking at how the Old Testament ultimately points to Jesus. And another popular story we're going to look at is the story of Joseph found in Genesis. And the book of Genesis gives Joseph the most time, the most action, the most pages, if you will. And you've heard the story probably. And what I love is how Joseph points us to God's grace and to the person of grace, Jesus Christ. And there's so many similarities and foreshadows of ultimately what Jesus would come to do. Joseph was good, but the moral of the story, though it was historically, isn't for us to try to be Joseph. It's to look at how good God is and how he was pointing to someone better, Jesus Christ. I love it. So just to recap, Joseph was his dad's favorite. He was the beloved. And he has some dreams about ruling over his brothers. Well, his brothers didn't really like that. And then Joseph, he gets this awesome jacket. And then next thing he knows, he's going to hang out with his brothers and he gets thrown in a pit, left for dead. And then his brothers decide, well, let's sell him, right? Let's sell him for the price of a slave. And, well, things start to look better for Joseph. He begins to earn favor and become more than just a slave. He works his way up to be the right-hand man working for this guy. And then he gets falsely accused and thrown into prison. And then Joseph works his way up again in the prison, and he becomes the warden's right-hand man. And because of that, he was able to interpret some dreams. And then next thing he knows, he's the right-hand man of the president, of the Pharaoh. He was the VP. Then a famine hits, and his brothers come looking for Joseph. Of course, it's been years, but the brothers came looking for food, and there Joseph was. And they didn't recognize him, but Joseph forgives them, and he gives them food, and he saves them from eventual death. And what I love about this story is that one day God would send a prince. Well, the Prince of Peace, a young prince whose heart would break for his people. He so loved us that while we were yet sinners, he came and died. And like Joseph, he would leave his home, he would leave his father, he would forsake it all for you and me. His brothers would hate him and want him dead. He would be sold for 30 pieces of silver, or the price of a slave. He would be punished even though he had done nothing wrong. And yet, he, as God, would use everything that happened to Jesus, even the bad things, and he would do something good. He would forgive, and he would restore, and he would undo what was done. Joseph recognized that his brothers intended evil, but God planned his circumstances for good. He worked them for good. And in the same way, those who crucified Jesus intended it for evil. And God's plan for Jesus and his once-for-all sacrifice was for the good of all people, that whoever believes in him would have eternal life. And I love it because Jesus is even better than Joseph. Not only does he give us forgiveness, and not only does he rescue us from death, but he gives us himself. And so in the story of Joseph, we see God working through Joseph in amazing ways, but ultimately in God's amazing sovereignty and plan, he's able to craft that story and reveal something better and greater, a foreshadowing of the good news that Jesus came, he sought us out, he forgave us, he restored us, he rescued us, he loved us because of what he's done. So I hope that's just an encouragement to you today, that you would know the heart of God for you, that he came and he did it all for you. He endured the shame of the cross for you. He hung on that cross and he loved you and he gave himself for you, knowing you may never love him back. And he did it because he loved you. So today, spend every single moment knowing you are enjoyed by God and God is for you.
You've been listening to the Daily Devotional Podcast with Zach Maldonado. Join us each day for a new devotional that will help you know and enjoy Christ. For more great content from Zach, including his books, sermons, and more, check out ZachMaldonado.com.